Afternoon, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I'm down here at the Pathfinder Outdoor Classroom, and we just finished a basic survival class about 3 hours ago. Sent the students on home. They've been here since Friday morning at about 8 o'clock. What we do with these classes, we teach the basic skills and the basic kit building of survival mentality, from your priorities to things that you would put in your kit, how to use those pieces of kit multifunctionally so you don't have to carry too much on your back if you're not planning to camp. And again, what we teach here at the Pathfinder School at the basic level is, I'm not planning to spend the night, but if I have to, I can. And one of the things that I do with the students out here, because we go through that kit continuously over the weekend, is I lay a sample kit out here on the table of, this is the minimal kit for a planned camping trip. And you can see that it doesn't add a lot of weight for an emergency kit. So if you've got these things with you, then you can not only train yourself to carry the gear that you would carry anytime, and it probably weighs under 30 pounds, maybe 35 at the most, depending on the seasonality of it. And then if something happens where you have to spend the night out there, you have the kit already with you to make you fairly comfortable in some type of an unfortunate scenario where you get stuck spending a night or two in the woods until you can be rescued or find your way out with self-rescue. And so I thought what I would do is I'd take this kit that's on the table and kind of go over it with you today and let you look at that and see what that kit entails. And you'll see that a lot of these items fall into the exact same categories as the items that we use at our basic survival emergency kit level for the basic class, but they may be a little upgraded from that to make it more comfortable to sleep in the woods if I plan to go camping. So let's go over that kit today because I've got time to do that. Like I said, class just ended today. Right now, classes are back to back to back to back for me. I have a blacksmithing class next weekend, Bushcraft 101 the following weekend. I think I have a weekend off in between, and then I have another basic class in the first part of April. And then we have an intermediate class. We have a land navigation intensive class, and all those classes are already sold out. So we have a lot going on here. That makes it hard for me sometimes to shoot videos once my season really starts rolling. I'm also in the middle of writing another book right now, 101 Bushcraft Projects, that's due to release on fourth quarter. So I've got a lot of things going on, not to mention some personal things in my life that I'm trying to get accomplished at the same time. So I thought today would be a good opportunity for me to take an hour, sit out here and shoot this video for you. Stay with me. Okay, so what you're gonna see in this kit is you're gonna see that same mentality, basically, of the 5 and 10 C's built into this kit. But again, it may not be the exact 5 or 10 C items that we use here at the basic level class because some of these things have been upgraded. And that's kind of what I show with this kit because we work with that initial kit all weekend long anyway. So obviously the first part of that kit needs to be some type of backpack, right? So something 30, 35 liters, doesn't need to be any particular brand. I like heavy duty backpacks made out of 1000 denier. This one's got a first aid pouch on the front of it that's built into it here. So that's where my first aid kit is. I have molly straps across the front of this and on the sides so I can molly a canteen, cup, and lid to this kit. So that's one portion of my vessel right there, my container that's taken care of. And I generally carry 2. We'll talk about that in a minute. And inside this one, I have a swagman roll that's also in woodland camouflage. And again, the cover elements in this kit are seasonal, so you're gonna see a couple options. So we've got that swagman roll in here because right now, the temperatures are getting down, right around that 40-degree mark, and a swagman roll is plenty warm enough for that, all right? As far as sleeping on the ground goes, with something like that, just an accordion pad in 40 degrees is fine. Once it starts to get down colder, you're gonna want something else. So in the basic kit, we talk about creating a browse bed with your 55-gallon drum liners or creating a raised bed with baffles inside of it that you can fill with insulation made from, again, those 55-gallon drum liners, or manipulating fire to be able to trap heat underneath that shelter and bring it up with your emergency space blanket. Now, if I'm going to sleep on the ground and I don't need to use all that survival gear because I plan to sleep out there, then I'm going to use that swagman roll in conjunction in this time of year with either that accordion pad, so I don't have to make that browse bed. If it gets colder outside, I'm gonna use something like this Exped 7, which is a down-filled mat. That down-filled mat will get me way down below, into the teens, into the 0 degrees, no problem as far as the ground goes. Then I need to take care of what I'm gonna sleep inside of. And generally what I use with that is when it gets down that cold, I'm either gonna go with some type of an actual sleeping bag, like this Wiggy's military sleeping bag, or I'm going to go with, you know, a wool blanket on top of something else. The Forester's quilt's a good example of that. That will get you well down below 40. It's warmer than something like the Swagman roll, but not warm enough by itself for those cold, cold temperatures. But that conduction is your biggest problem. And then even some type of a quilt that's made out of a complete down, like a hammock gear over quilt, would be good with something like this if you were trying to cut weight within your kit. But for me, what I've got for options that I showed this weekend, again, Swagman roll, actual sleeping bag, accordion mat, or air mattress. And then for ground cover, I have just a sheet of Tyvek that's made of black Tyvek, and it's about 3.5 feet, 4 feet wide. It's 42 inches wide, and it's about 80 inches long. So it's plenty long enough for a ground sheet to protect an air mattress or any other type of bedding that I'm putting it on top of. And it just gives me something that's waterproof to lay on the ground as a ground sheet. It takes up hardly any space in my pack and weighs almost nothing. As far as what I'm going to sleep under, this time of year, again, probably just a poncho, right? Maybe even the poncho and the poles. Now that we've got these poles, I like this combination because it's very, very lightweight. It's very, very easy to pack. I may go with a hammock, but most of the time I like sleeping on the ground this time of year till it gets a little warmer. Then I'll move to the hammock. So generally I have some type of a ground cover, and that's generally either a tarp. A 7x7 has always been big enough for me. An 8x8 is fine. 10x10 is really too big without a hammock, in my opinion. And then something like this poncho is really big enough for me just as a single quickie shelter for 1 or 2 nights in the woods. That's fine. I don't have to carry anything else, and it's multifunctional because it's rain gear as well, right? So that kind of covers that. Now, let's talk about tools for just a minute, okay? The tools don't change much except the dead of winter. Dead of winter, or if I'm planning to cut down trees for a project of some sort, then I may carry an axe. Most of the time, the main tools I'm going to carry are going to be a folding saw. Again, size depending on what I plan to do. But these gomboys are plenty big to cut down anything I would need in a temporary quick camp or for firewood if it's standing dead. 5-6 inch stuff, no problem with this, right? I throw a woodsman's wedge in here. You could make these out of wood, no problem. This one happens to be aluminum. It only weighs 7 ounces, so it doesn't add a lot of weight to your kit. I can cut the handle very quickly with this from something like arrowwood, screw it in there, and I can bust up any piece of firewood I need to break up without having to sacrifice my knife as a baton, except on smaller pieces of kindling. And so that just gives me peace of mind, right? And then some type of fixed blade knife. And that fixed blade knife could be a Pathfinder knife. It could be a Mora Garberg, like this one is here in the sheath. It could be a Mora Garberg fixed blade. It could be something even as big as this Fjallkniven A1, which is about a 5.5 or 6 inch blade. That's about as big as I'd want to go with a blade. Something 4.5 to 6 inches is perfect for that. A 5-inch camp and trail, one of my favorite knives. Anything like that would be fine. And those would be the base of my cutting tools, along with my pocket carry, which you've talked about in other videos. I've always got that SAK in my pocket. So I always have that small whittling and carving knife, and my bigger knife is more for if I need a pry bar, if I need to bust up some wood, if I have a major cutting task I need to do, then I'll use that larger belt knife for that. But most of the time I can get away with that jackknife if I'm not really pounding or beating on that knife. So that gives me a pretty good range of tools, pretty quick and dirty, right? And then, you know, some type of a webbing belt like this Wilderness Rescue belt is fine, or some type of a leather belt. All of that stuff will work fine for you to carry your tools on around your waist. Not a big deal. I have a cordage bag here that's just a mesh sack. And I keep all of my cordage management system in here except the one that's in my pocket, which we've talked about dozens of times. So I've got all of the cordage in there, including my rapid deployment Ridgeline that I can get out of here and I know what's what just by grabbing it. And then I also have a roll of number 36 bank line in here that's got some tent stakes shoved into it. So I've got tent stakes for that poncho shelter tarp situation that are stowed in there, and it keeps them neat and tidy inside that roll. And then all of the rest of this cord just drops down on top of that with the rapid deployment Ridgeline right on the top. So it's the first thing I'm gonna grab out of there because I have, remember, utility cordage in my pocket for something I need really quick. But if I'm gonna put up a shelter, that's probably the first thing I'm going to do. Rapid deployment ridgeline goes on top, okay? The other cordage that I carry sometimes with me on top of all of that is this 1-inch webbing. So this is kind of a life-supporting type stuff. This is 1-inch tubular webbing. So if I'm going to improvise a hammock for some reason, if I need some kind of a rescue harness for some reason, if I want something that's gonna lift a lot of weight very, very safely for some reason, then I carry this. And it can also substitute for other things like belts around outerwear, belts around ponchos, those type things this also works for. I carry 2 15-foot pieces of it in the bottom of my backpack, right? We've got the poles we already talked about, fire kit. I'm really hot on this new wind pouch by Lester River Bushcraft because it's pretty much an all-inclusive kit. It works really well. I always have a lighter in my pocket. So I don't have to have a lighter in here, and I've always got a lighter in my ditty bag as a spare. We'll talk about that in a minute. So this fire kit doesn't need a lighter. So what it's got in it is, it's got a good heavy-duty ferro rod in it. It's got that pull-start fire in it. It's got some waterproof matches in it, the big Yuko Heavy Titan matches in it, and it's got 2 cans of Mini Inferno in it. That's enough for me, along with my lighter and the Fresnel lens that happens to be behind my hat in this Wazoo survival hat. There's a pouch right here, and I've got a Fresnel lens in there right behind the patch on my hat. If I can't start a fire with all of that, then I really probably have no business in the woods, to be honest with you, because that's more than you should need. So these are just kit options, okay? Generally speaking, a ferro rod, a cigarette lighter, some type of magnification lens, whether that's a Fresnel lens or the lens on your magnifying glass, is generally enough. But if you want extra options, things like Mini Inferno, things like pull start fire, things like waterproof matches can add to that kit, shore that up, and give you more security when it comes to starting a fire right this second if you need it. I have a pouch here that's got a headlight in it, and it's got a battery bank in it because the headlight is a rechargeable Pathfinder light. So I carry a brick, I carry the light, and I carry the cord, all in one small package. Good enough. Ditty bag for all small essentials, including an extra lighter. Things that I can do repair with, things for hygiene, toothbrush, toothpaste, all those types of things, wipes, and then small needles, things like that, sail needle inside here. All of those small items go in this ditty bag. They're self-contained that way, and I know exactly where they're at. This is like the junk drawer of your backpack, right? That covers almost everything up to navigation and one extra container, right? Compass in a pouch, very simple. Sunto MC2, sun compass, made in the USA Brunton, something like that, full-on compass. For navigation, that's what I want. Now in my pocket, I might carry some kind of a small compass if I'm just out on a short scout. I generally have an extra compass in here, one of those smaller ones like we're talking about, like a Silva Hunter's compass. I generally carry a backup in that ditty bag, but this is gonna be the compass I'm gonna rely on for a lot of my self-mapping and true navigation. And I carry a small pouch that has a map of the area, a protractor, a pen and pencil, those type things. Doesn't weigh very much, isn't very thick, doesn't have a lot in it, and a notebook, right? Those are all inside there. Then I carry a secondary canteen kit, this one with the butterfly handles, some water purification stuff on the outside, and the human gear lid on the top because it's just easy to get into and drink out of with the canteen in the case, which is why I like it that way. And then a spoon on the back for when I'm eating. And I've got a whistle attached here, more for when I'm in the woods with students than anything else. But I do have a metal Acme Stadium whistle on there as well. And that really pretty much is the totality of this kit. It all fits in that 35-liter backpack, and it all weighs less than 35 pounds, 35, right? Less than 35 pounds, 35-liter backpack. And that covers almost everything except for a couple just add water meals you might want to throw in there, or an energy bar of some kind, and some kind of another sack in the very top of the backpack to snack on the fly. But this kit is pretty all-inclusive when it comes to camping, and you're only going to change out things seasonally. You may change out your sleeping gear to a hammock. You may change out a sleeping bag for a Swagman roll. You may change out a heavy-duty sleeping pad for an accordion pad. Again, it's all seasonal. You may change out the tarp. You may add a tarp with the poncho if you're sleeping under a hammock because you need larger coverage to get over that hammock than you do just to lay underneath something like a poncho. So you'd have to add a tarp at the same time you're adding a hammock. but the weight differential there, you could probably put, you know, a Dyneema tarp easily and a hammock and probably an underquilt for that matter for the weight of this one pad. So again, it's all personal preference. It's what you want to do, what you're comfortable with, and the gear that you get used to using all the time is going to be the best gear for you. Now, there's kind of another thing you should notice about this kit that we've just talked about, right? There's only a few pieces of this that are actually Pathfinder branded gear. I mean, I've got a Marbles wedge here that I have signed the licensing for distribution over to Marbles for that and Smoky Mountain Knife Works. I have the new version of the Camouflage Scout Pack. I have a couple of canteens here, and that's it. Everything else I've showed you for the most part is some other brand. So it's not like I only want you to bring that stuff to my school. Whatever you bring to the school that meets the criteria listed on the website, no matter what brand it is, will be fine for a basic class. You'll find out what works good for you and what doesn't, depending on what you bring. And that's part of the lessons of a basic class, is to make those mistakes early so you don't make them when it's an emergency. Guys, listen, I appreciate your views and I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll try to get a video out this week, sometime midweek, on our weekend special, if we have one this weekend. But again, my blacksmithing class starts on Thursday, which means prep day is Wednesday. Tomorrow's already Monday. I'm getting squeezed, if you understand what I'm saying. Guys, I'll be back to another video as soon as I can. I do appreciate you. Thanks.